All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of Peanuts from the Plebs. This is episode number 20.
Whoa.
I can't believe it. We've already done 20 of or we're doing 20 of these shows already.
Amazing.
Yeah, pretty
Amazing
cool.
stuff.
So let's start off with the debate reactions.
Yeah, I think that's probably the first thing you kind of got to tackle a little bit, to talk about.
The first question was about the pandemic response, right?
Hmm.
And my initial reaction was just obviously it was just this little tit for tat game between them,
Right.
and they both completely looked over the implications of what has happened to the American people. You know what I'm saying? Like that they just they had no understanding of like how detrimental this has been. You know what I'm saying? Like the impact that
Yeah,
this
the fact that
had.
they didn't even get into like relief, what's going on, still holding up relief is kind of amazing.
Right,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And the only thing that kind of came close was Trump saying, "Oh, we can't do that to them, Joe. We can't lock them up again." Or like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
talking about economic implications of shutting everything down again, right?
right.
Yeah.
But that's as far as it went. It didn't,
Right. Yeah.
it he didn't. But it
Well,
did. But that goes to show how, again, these people, because they live in this bubble, in this Washington D.C. bubble, they don't
yeah.
understand what it's like for people out there in America right now that are struggling because they've lost their job, and
Yeah.
they may have lost their health insurance. They may be getting evicted soon. Like, who knows what kind of stuff people are going through.
Yeah, the larger picture on that too, though, to me was that it was a little bit. I don't know if it was a gift to Biden or something like that, because basically they had started out the last debate talking about COVID,
Hmm.
and we weren't going to. Nothing amazing is going to change in the time between then. We're not going to suddenly all of a sudden have some amazing discussion on it. It's going to be the exact same talking points. So it almost felt like it was designed
Yep.
to put people to sleep and have them shut off the debate or something. To me, it felt like I just have to wait for this to end because there's nothing new that's going to come out of it,
But
except that
that would have been the perfect opportunity for them to say, like going, for Biden, if you really wanted to, it would have been a
right,
perfect opportunity for him to say, if I were, to be in charge, I would make sure that people are not going to lose their jobs. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would
right,
make sure that the Congress makes, does their job, and, and
yeah. And I actually thought he did. I thought he achieved the opposite. I mean, what I heard from
right.
him was that what I'm going to do is, yeah, I'm going to make sure there's investments. They're going to get PPE, they're going to get PPE, and they're going to get, money to make the changes to their restaurants. So they have the partitioning and all that. But I'm thinking, like, what good does that do if you're also saying you're not the idea of a complete shutdown and quarantine you're considering? Well, those restaurants aren't going to have any customers.
Right.
So I'm not sure what you're saying that's really going to benefit anybody.
But again, it's because they're so far removed from reality. They don't
Oh yeah.
experience the real world. They don't experience what the majority of people are experiencing.
Yeah,
For
and even
them, like look at the situation with Trump, testing positive for COVID, and
yeah,
going to the hospital, and then the fact that other people, they would have to quarantine for 14 days. They wouldn't be able to go to
good
work. They
point.
would they wouldn't be able to do all this stuff. But yet, because he's the president of the United States, I guess he can just do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and then right up until today, Nancy Pelosi was on CNN, and they were like pushing her to say, "Why don't you just take the 1.9 trillion? America needs. Why don't you just take the 1.9 trillion?" And I think even the CNN people are sitting there going, "Well, it's so obvious. It's just for political reasons. You can't give them a win in
Well, she
these
did say
final,
it. She
you
did
know."
say it that Trump just wants his signature on another check to the American people, and that she knows that that would be gifting him the election, and
Right. Even
and so,
right.
but remember, she represents the people.
Right. She feeds the people.
She feeds the people
She just
in
doesn't
her
give
own
them
words.
rent or jobs or
Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. But
Uh,
yeah, I definitely felt that Biden was, all he kept doing was just fear mongering. That's it. That's all he was
oh,
doing.
well, I think there's a default. You could see when he would go to another big picture of the debate, you could see where he would just get a little rattled or confused, and he would go to a default speech that he was told,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden he would switch over to like a looking at the camera and giving a you know the Americans don't care about this, Americans care about that. Yeah, and you could just see that the prep went in that direction, that if you ever get rattled, give one of these little canned speeches, and I thought that was like really obvious, and showed
Well,
his
it, the
showed
thing
his
is that it's
weakness
just
more
like
than.
it's pandering. That's it. That's all you're
Yeah,
doing. You're just giving platitudes, which
right.
at
And
this point,
Trump completely called him out on that at one point
yeah,
too. It was pretty hysterical.
yeah. I mean, but we've been talking about this for how long now, that that what is needed at this point is someone like a true leader, someone who actually is going to put the people first, or at
Yeah,
least give people that illusion that they're doing that, and I guess
right.
Trump kind of does that for his people, so I don't know.
Well, so that's right. He does it for his people, but obviously, um, you know, he is an accident that happened because of our incredibly broken political system. He
Right.
should right. He should never have gotten within a mile of the White House, and it's only because both other parties are so bad, and only because we're speaking about both parties and not multiple that could challenge things and make people give up their held positions, or um, the symbiotic relationship of the Dems and the Repubs that allows each other to thrive by just like saying, well, they'll take away your, birth control, or they'll do this, these little, they're
It's
gonna
fear mongering. It's constant
they
fear
hate it's
mongering.
constant fear mongering, and they both kind of thrive on that because they can both, you know, uh, uh, generate funds off that. They can both
Right.
fundraise off of doing
Right.
that.
I mean, that is how you can exert maximum control over anyone, is to make them fear things.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, that it's
And I
really
think
a
we
psychological mind game.
And I think we've actually had politicians admit as much by saying things like, never let a disaster go to
Rahm
waste or something like
Emanuel.
that. Or
Yep.
yeah. So these things have been said, I think, on both sides
Right.
in unguarded moments.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
it's
Right.
absolutely the way they're used to working at this point. And
Yep.
they know
Yep.
they can be lazy when they're not having to actually deal with writing legislation as much and so forth, because they do have this two-party system that allows them just to play on this fear mongering, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
All right, what was the next? You have the list
All
of.
right. Then the next thing that they kind of went on to was like the Russia meddling in the election. The way, first of all, what
Yeah,
I want to say is that Biden is, I want to see if anyone will ever call out the fact that he was spewing a conspiracy theory,
right,
right? With the
right.
whole Russian bounties,
The
that
Russian
they were
bounties and
paying bounties.
the laptop is Russian, and both of these things have been completely debunked by by the intelligence community
Yep.
that the Democrats were praising before when they take their side.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
I even wonder now. There's been enough cases of this where I wonder if the intelligence community itself is like really saying, well, we can't prop up this Russiagate thing forever. Now that Trump is, maybe we're coming to the end of this his presidency. I think they're kind of getting ready to spin off of to get out of that, and I think that we're seeing evidence of that in these things where they're actually coming
Well,
out and
no,
saying,
I think it has more to do with the fact that really it's not being talked about in the mainstream,
yeah,
is how Bill Barr is actually going after a lot of there's a lot of stuff that's coming out now because Bill
right,
Barr is actually going after these people for Russiagate, you know.
right.
Um, now is when we're seeing like the proof of the fact that Trump and his campaign was being spied on,
Well,
and Uh-huh.
we're seeing it, like, what is it going to take for the average, or like, MSNBC, CNN American to, I mean, they still completely believe in Russiagate, and
Yeah, I know.
oh, they completely believe in it. They completely believe it.
Right.
And
But
you
it's
encounter
because
people
the
all the
mainstream
time.
media, they're not held to account, right? And so
Right.
they can continue to spew these, like, again, like Joe Biden did, he can continue to spew these conspiracy theories. They are hoaxes. What he is saying, they are not true, you know? And but he is blanketed the, of course, this is accepted information.
Right.
Yeah, because it is what has been disseminated from mainstream media. You know, that
Yeah.
is the acceptable information. That's it. That's all that's allowed to be talked about. And that's what, all this censorship that's going on, it's based on the fact that there's only a certain set of information that's been determined by who knows
Right. 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 Right.
to be that acceptable information. And if you step outside of that, then you are a conspiracy theorist. even
Yes.
even if
Yes.
you are correct, even if you are
Yeah.
you telling the truth, that doesn't matter. It's not part of the acceptable information.
Yeah, and there was one point I was just wondering. I would just love to know how many people, what people's reaction are across the country. At one point, Biden did say, and of course, the laptop. Well, the laptop was Russian disinformation, and Trump just said, "Oh, Russia again! Come on, Joe," or something like that. And I would just love to be in people's living rooms to know how many people said, "Do you hear what Trump just said?" and how many people said, "Did you hear what Biden just said?" I
Yep.
mean, because it's amazing that we as Americans can't determine truth yet and have it commonly understood on that yet. It's
Mhm.
amazing, right? It's every fact that we need is out there, and and it simply needs to be communicated. And of course, CIA/DNC/ mainstream media won't allow that to be communicated. Now they might, if Biden wins, after I that's this is where my head is at. They might, after, if Biden were to win,
Mhm.
allow the truth to kind of come out a little bit. But you're right that already, if you look at the FBI org chart around the email investigation and the Russiagate investigation, a lot of those people are gone. They, I mean, mostly got their pensions and so forth. But the
Mhm.
only person they actually had legal consequences was that lawyer that very obviously lied on
Mhm.
the FISA warrant, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
FISA warrant application. Um, so so you're right. I mean, in a way, I do take heart that some of those most corrupt people that were in FBI are at least gone from there now. But
Mhm.
um, I don't think the way the FBI and CIA operate has changed. I think they think it's too bad that those great patriots um, got taken down
Yeah.
to some extent. Again,
Well, I
rightful
mean,
pictures.
but but it's because no one is ever held to account,
Yeah,
like, as,
that's right.
and I always bring this back to everyone loves Barack Obama, but just like he never held the bankers to account. If you don't
Right.
hold people to account, he should have held the Bush administration to account for lying us into
Well,
several wars. You
right.
know what I'm
And
saying? Like, I mean, but
yeah.
because no one is ever held to account, then
And it's even worse than that. They're essentially rewarded. I mean, he let the torturers off, and then he gave Bush a Liberty Medal for being a complete warmonger.
mhm,
Obama gave Bush a medal. It's just unbelievable, right? And then we can get, he also, you and I were discussing before, used the Espionage Act 9 times, like
mhm,
incredibly accelerated prosecution of whistleblowers and journalists, really suppressing the truth. That's what I really see as the danger of the Democratic Party now, is their authoritarianism, their anti-Assange, condoning this YouTube and big tech and Twitter censorship, rigging their own primaries. I just see them as so, and also the people coming in now. You've got Kamala, who used prisoner slave labor, and Biden, who wrote the crime bill and put a generation of blacks into prison for smoking dope or something.
mhm.
They're incredibly dangerous. I mean, it's George Orwell stuff to me.
Yep.
And yeah, I think I just find them incredibly frightening. And then Trump, I just don't know what Trump would do in a second. If he doesn't face or have to face a re-election again, I have no idea what that guy would do. So
Right,
it's
he
just
could just be
pretty
unhinged and
terrifying.
do whatever he wants, you know.
Right. It's
But I
terrifying.
think which can be scary because really, if you think about that the military industrial complex, if they have a hold over Trump, right, to kind of keep him in check, and we have seen that every time that he starts to try
Right.
to do things that go against the narrative or the agenda that is
Yeah.
placed by the military industrial complex, then he gets reined in shortly after. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
for one
There's
thing or
definitely,
another, he may be able to go on these campaign speeches and say whatever he wants, but ultimately what he does is very much the opposite of what he campaigns on.
but words have truth. Like I think there is this kind of like this fight going on, and I think like I've said this before. I think he spent most of his presidency talking with lawyers about how to getting out of all these various investigations that are going on. So he's hasn't had the time to put into stopping wars as he might have otherwise. Yemen, I'm afraid he's in bed with the Saudis the way every president has been. So that's a continuing genocide that's really horrific. But he has spoken out, basically saying those generals, they want war. The Pentagon, all they want is war, in a way that I think that's pretty meaningful that he
I
does
know,
that.
but you see,
Yeah.
my comeback to that is always
Yeah.
the fact that ultimately what people don't get is that it's Pompeo, and
Right.
you know what I'm
Yep.
saying.
Yeah.
Pompeo
And he's
is
brought
a
people in like that.
bloodthirsty warmonger. All
Right.
he wants is just to cause havoc all over the world. He is a power hungry asshole. Like
Yeah.
he
And
is
Waller's
crazy.
mustache before him.
Seriously, he is
Boom. Whatever.
seriously
Yeah.
very dangerous,
Right. Yes.
and yeah, and I'm trying to think of who was the other one.
I said Walrus mustache. I can't remember
Yes.
his name.
Oh God, I can't. Freak.
Begins with B. Begins with B. Da, na, 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 na. Ah.
I mean, we could look it up, right?
Yeah.
Um, oh man, that's gonna drive me crazy.
Yeah.
All right, but anyways, it's the way that he fills his cabinet
Yeah.
is those are the ones who are actually the ones that are in charge. He runs this his presidency the way that he would a business. He's not into the little intricacies of things. He is what is considered the executive. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not really into the mud about all this stuff. He hires people to take care of certain things, and
Yes.
that's how
That's
he
definitely
sees it.
true.
And so and the fact that he hires these people, that's what makes him dangerous.
John Bolton.
Because John Bolton, there we go, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that. He just thinks like, well, I'm going to get the best, and who's the best in the business on this war stuff? Okay, John Bolton, or something like that. Yeah, I think there's definitely some of that.
Right. And
Um,
then because
yeah.
Trump is such a big figure,
Right.
it allows for them to do all of these things in the background while everyone is hating on Trump for doing all these things. And
True.
ultimately it
Yeah.
does come down on Trump because he is the one who is in charge,
That's true. That's
supposedly.
true.
Um and again, he's the one who appoints these people, which is that is the major problem. But then you have to look at Biden, right? And you have
Right.
to look at who he would appoint to. And it's not as though he would appoint people that are any different. He would also appoint warmongers.
But he would also fully embrace them going to war. I think that Trump
Mhm.
does have a little bit of, okay, tell me, what are your plans and why are we doing this?
Mhm.
Even though I agree with you, he was wrong to hire these people in the first place. And I don't know, the proof is in the pudding, right? There were opportunities to do more. I mean, he did assassinate Assange.
Soleimani.
Salamati, and he's continuing what's essentially genocide in Yemen, but again, continuing,
He
starting
has
something,
ramped up the
yeah,
conflict with Iran, right? He
right, yeah, he's made
definitely
things more, yeah,
he even when he was on which show oh man, I think Rush Limbaugh, right? He went on Rush Limbaugh and he
yeah,
he called into the show, and he even said like if they fuck around or they don't want to fuck around with us, something like that, and
Right, right,
it
right,
was
right.
like it was such a big deal. It was trending all over Twitter,
Yeah,
right? I mean, I'm not on Twitter, so I don't know, but
yeah, yeah.
I that's what I heard, was that it was trending all over Twitter because he said fuck.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
God forbid
Yeah,
the president
yeah.
says the word fuck.
Right.
But yeah, he also has been an instigator in things, but mostly because he's a reactionary.
Right.
He's a big baby.
Well, to me, that's what I was going to go. I was basically going to say he's an unknown, and like, yeah, reactionary. You don't know if somebody just ticked him off, then he might yeah, really react incorrectly and give the green light to do whatever and start any war or whatever.
And that's
Absolutely, yeah.
why even with like the Russia stuff, I think that even though the question, the way that it was asked was really to hurt Trump, right? Because
Right.
it's this whole to remind people of the 2016 election and the whole Russiagate thing. That's the whole reason why she asked that Russia question.
Oh, sure.
But it Trump came out stronger because of the fact that he has been tougher on Russia than previous administrations, and
Yeah,
but it's been as a result of the fact that they're looking at him and
I think
everything that he
so.
does with Russia. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think
So he
so.
feels
Yeah.
like I
Right.
have to be the strong
Right.
man.
I
I
mean,
have to
maybe
do
even
this.
to the point of pulling out of nuclear agreements and things.
Exactly,
I mean, they
exactly.
like literally like to my point of view is yeah, my point of view is like RussiaGate has put the entire world in danger because of this new Cold War, including these reactionary situations on what he does with treaties. Yeah, and arming the Ukrainians. They really did give him an opportunity to list all the ways that he has fought the Russians basically. Um, and yeah, again, some of that is being a big baby kind of reaction to being under attack on RussiaGate for all this
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's all downstream of for me of um, you know Dem corruption basically resulting in Trump being elected. So to me, it's all downstream from
That's true.
what the Democrats have done.
I guess big picture, that is true,
Yeah,
right? And then of course, Trump. Oh, I thought that Trump really hit Joe. I don't know. I think the way I first of all, I think Trump won this debate. I personally think Trump won the
I
debate.
thought so too, and it was kind of funny to watch. I tuned in like CNN or something afterwards to watch them kind of hedge and the way they said it. They basically when they said it was kind of a tie to me, that means well, Trump obviously completely destroyed them.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't destroy him, but I thought there were definitely big points that came out of it for Trump,
Well,
and
I think that
nothing
The
big
way
for
that
Biden.
Trump came off, I
Yeah,
think, was what made him the winner of this debate, because
and
the way that he would hit Biden
yeah,
was more from like, just I'm a regular person, you're a regular person, just let's talk. The way that he said, with the whole Biden clearing up the email thing, right?
right, yeah,
That he said maybe you can clear that up for us now, Joe. You know what I'm
right,
saying? He was
right.
just like talking to him like, hey, these people, they just want to know, I'm just helping the people. That's
So
how he really came off to me, I think.
So in the big picture around presentation kind of stuff, there were two things in play there. I think even Trump's people told in the last debate he looked terrible.
Yeah.
The constant jibing at Biden constantly, and he was helped out by this mute thing.
Yeah.
Basically, whole mute button was basically
Yeah.
okay. You're gonna have to just stand there and try and look presidential
Yeah.
and not snipe it at Biden because you're gonna look stupid if they mute you and people can see you talking but can't hear you.
Hmm.
And that worked against Biden. Biden having to talk coherently for several minutes in a
And
row.
he even stopped himself at one point where he said, like,
He did. I
"Oh,
shouldn't say that. Oh, I
yeah,
will. Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, the first time I heard that they would have the mute button, I immediately thought like, what are they doing? That's gonna absolutely help out Trump if he takes the hint that he ought to be quiet, and it's gonna hurt Biden. I don't know what they were doing, but I didn't
hmm
want to touch on two things that I just saw the Convo coach bring up, which I thought was really interesting. Was that um, Trump really effectively used a couple of lies on Biden's part against him. So by using his own words, I mean, Trump's got a couple of ads out there now where he uses the thing about fracking, where Biden literally challenged Trump in the debate and said, like, I never said no fracking. Go to the tape. Go to the tape. So Trump went to the tape, and he's got this amazing commercial out there now showing, him over and over being asked, are you going to stop fracking? And he even goes up to one girl and says, look in my eyes. We will end fossil fuels,
Yeah.
and the other one was they used Bernie's tape at the debate where Bernie said, actually, it was Bernie's commercial. They essentially reran Bernie's commercial where he had asked at the debate, Biden, you have said in the past you're going to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and veterans benefits. And Biden said, I never said that. And Bernie just put together a commercial where he showed him saying that from the Senate floor like several times, that we're going to cut across the board, including Social Security and Medicare. It literally states it right out. So, Trump, they say Trump lies a lot. He absolutely does. But Biden has a real problem with the truth as well. I mean, he even left a previous run for presidency over plagiarism scandal. This guy, how they ended up with this guy running as their nominee is just
Well, it's
crazy.
exactly like how we talked about last week, the fact that because in the primary they didn't do their job. The whole point of the primary is
Right.
that you are supposed to challenge the other people that you are running against. You're supposed to
Yeah.
challenge their record. You are supposed to challenge, their history, their I guess their personal life, everything. You're supposed to challenge everything so
Right.
that you can bring it out in the air before your opponent gets to do it. That's like, the first thing in politics that you do, is that
Yeah.
because that they're going to dig up dirt on you, right? And so you want to air out that dirt so that you can like drive the narrative, so that you can drive the conversation around it,
True. That's the way things should work. But I think, that's maybe the way the people see things should work. I think the DNC way things were supposed to work was that Kamala was supposed to be the obvious nominee,
Mm.
and she fell completely apart under that scrutiny. Tulsi did actually provide that scrutiny. I don't know if that was a shock to the DNC that everybody else agreed, she is the chosen one, really,
Mhm.
but she fell apart so completely that they had to go to Plan B. And Plan B was, well, I mean, who else could they 100% trust? Joe, they could have trusted Pete, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not quite sure
Well,
why they
I
didn't.
think it would have been if their plan would have come to pass. I
Yeah,
think the ticket would have been Harris Buttigieg,
probably, yes.
with Harris leading the ticket. I think that's what
Yes,
it would have been.
that
I
I
think that's what they
100%
were
believe
trying to
that. Yep.
set it up as.
Yeah, I think so. And then, yeah, they had to kind of push things however they thought they could to the closest to that, which was Joe and Harris, with Joe probably like bowing out soon after election, and then Miss Zero Delegate being president, completely having never answered the few questions that were posed to her about her record, basically.
Right, right,
Right. Yeah.
right. And much like that, Biden in the debate, when Trump pressed him on the email thing, right?
Right.
His comeback was essentially your taxes. Show us your taxes.
Right. Right. Which
It
is,
like it just goes to show, dude.
yeah.
Like that means that you are hiding something.
Right.
The fact that with this whole laptop thing, the fact that they have not denied that
Right.
it was his laptop, even though I think now they have that Hunter did go and ask for it afterwards or something. At one point, he did go to
Yeah.
the store
I had
and he
read that
signed
the
something. So
the
now there is
lawyer actually
proof that it
the
was
lawyer.
his laptop.
Well, and also this Bobonsky, this whoever this new guy is that came
Oh,
out that basically had work with Hyden and Biden. Supposedly, this is what
yeah.
he's saying. He's showing, I have these telephones that have all these communications, and the big guy is absolutely Joe, and he absolutely knew all these things were, and essentially painting it was a kickback scheme.
Yeah.
It was, under Joe's name, these deals got done, and money would get kicked back to him through his kids and brothers and so forth. Um, and they just, at this point, yeah, Democrats are just trying to, run to the finish line and hide. They're just going to hide them away, and they're just not going to take questions. And
Mm-hmm.
and the media is gonna, and Twitter and everyone in big tech is all completely creating that
They're
bubble.
complicit. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they're
complicit.
completely complicit. That's why I say that, to me, the most dangerous thing right now is this authoritarianism, this Orwellism by the Democrats and the compliant media and the cooperating, CIA and FBI, and it could take a really horrific turn if Biden were to become president. I mean, they could basically say, now is our opportunity to completely lock down and become like a China-like state where everybody has to.
You don't have to, people keep thinking that China is like the most draconian or whatever. This
Right.
stuff is going on in Australia. They have been
Mhm.
doing like these lockdown measures and, like forcing testing and all this kind of stuff
Oh
to
yeah, yeah,
people in Australia for quite some time now. Like,
right.
and
Yeah, I
this,
saw I saw a thing where a woman was dragged out of her home because she, um, maybe posted something on Facebook that they were
right,
considering having a protest about the lockdowns or something,
right.
and that was enough to earn her like jail time.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, pretty
Exactly.
horrific. Yeah,
So yeah, so it's not so far removed,
right.
when people think that, oh, that only happens in China. It's like, okay, yeah. And even now the UK is also, they are yeah, they're, well, it's only in certain places that they're locking down again and they're setting curfew and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But like there's no reason behind it, and so,
Yeah,
thankfully now people are actually, standing up and they're not taking it. But anyways,
yeah.
that's getting off the subject.
No, I
Anyways,
completely agree. It could happen here. I think that's why really people
right,
should
I
understand
know,
it.
me too,
Absolutely.
it scares me, it really does
Yeah,
scare me.
yeah.
All right, so then, like on the China question, I mean, I thought they were both hawkish,
Sure.
that's the whole China issue. I think it's very much like all these issues against China and against Russia. To me, it's very xenophobic.
Yeah. There is an
And
aspect of that. Yeah, there
so
is.
I just that I just, oh, no, I don't adhere to, that kind of ideology.
Mm.
And so I think that both of them are very hawkish on it. And I think really the people who keep pushing this whole anti-China thing, it all comes down to the fact that China is playing the game that the U.S. set the rules for, but they're just playing the game better than the U.S. is. That's it. That's all it comes down to,
True. Right.
in my
Right.
opinion. In my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, when Trump talks about rewriting trade agreements and things like that, I'm like, okay, that makes perfectly good sense. Visit those, and if we can do better and so forth. And, um, you know, if it makes sense to bring manufacturing back here or whatever, I mean, that's fine with me. But he absolutely does, around the China virus stuff and all this, he does hedge into territory that's a little racist. He's basically, leveraging fears and so forth that he really shouldn't be doing. Um, on Biden, I just don't have a feel of where he's at. They certainly will. He certainly will utilize that kind of fear as well.
And I feel
If he
like
ever can.
well, first of all, you have the whole, like, you have the left who expects him to denounce China because of the whole Uyghur
Right.
Muslims in
Yep.
China,
Yep.
and then on the right you have those Republicans, because he's trying to court Republican voters, right? Who
Mhm.
Republicans are, they're all like anti-China, right? China
Right.
is enemy number one.
Yeah.
So it's, of course, it's beneficial for him to come out and be against China, but in actuality, now, wasn't that one of the things that Hunter Biden was getting money from?
Yeah. There was supposedly like a billion dollar deal, like when Biden was vice president, Hunter flew with him on Air Force Two, and and on the return trip, Hunter had in pocket $1 billion deal. Um, so there's absolutely this weird thing where Biden thinks that, and the Dems end up thinking that what they really need are suburban whites, and so
Mhm.
so there's definitely a lot of things that are, besides just the battleground state around fracking, suddenly
Mhm. Mhm.
changing is where they are on fracking and so forth.
All right. And then on the North Korea question, again, I thought that, they're both hawks on it, right?
Yeah,
But I thought that actually this one worked in Trump's favor, right? Because Biden actually came off more hawkish
right.
with the whole argument of not legitimizing him as a leader. When at the end of the day, he is the leader of North Korea. Whether you
Yeah,
legitimize him or not, he is the leader. And so, because of that, you want to have diplomatic talks, right? And the one thing
yeah,
that I will say is that the what keeps coming to mind, especially when he said this, was how can Tulsi say that Biden is less dangerous than Trump when Biden will not even, again, he won't legitimize the North
right.
Korean leader by talking to him.
Yeah, so that this is probably one of the most disturbing things that came up in the debates with Buttigieg and over again. And one of the middle-aged white guys that left, I can't remember who it was,
Yeah.
but just this whole thing that um that there's a problem with talking to leaders, even if they're bad people. I mean, and you can cut right to the tape on Obama saying things about "I will talk to anybody to have treaties and so forth," and it's really disturbing that this comes up that and I thought Trump looked really good in that. But I mean, there's a lot of, if your mind's made up for Biden or if your mind's made up against Trump or for Trump, I don't think you were changed by that.
Yeah.
But he was saying exactly the right thing to me when he was saying that um, the Obama administration left things in a bad way. They
Yep.
even talked to Trump and said that, you got to watch out for North Korea. You might be in a war here within a year or something like that. And Trump went ahead and talked to him, and we're not in a war. And Trump did say, millions of people could have been affected, and we're not having a war. And I just find that terrifying. This new idea among the Democrats that you don't talk to all leaders and try and create treaties. I mean, that
Right.
means they wouldn't create a treaty with the Russians, who they think are the ultimate evil. I mean, it
Right.
makes no sense.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
horrifying.
again, it's that argument. It's just so weak. It's such a weak argument to
Right,
say that you're just not going to legitimize someone by talking
right.
to them. That means that you have no argument. That it's
Yeah,
literally just that you don't want to come to the table.
and it was a really important point that is completely um, not done justice in these quick format debates. It
Yeah.
didn't work in the primaries where Tulsi was trying to get it through to all these thick-headed idiots that were saying like, oh, well, you like Assange and you like Russia or whatever, and it didn't work in this case, though. Um, though Trump effectively communicated to me something I wanted to hear.
Right. That's what I'm
I
saying. This
will.
worked in Trump's favor. Definitely.
He's basically, he doesn't want to start wars. He wants to
Hmm.
have treaties. I want to hear that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah,
so, and that's what I'm saying. That the left, it going with Biden, it's such a mistake. It's
right.
such a mistake thinking that this is uh, who the winning ticket would be. And then obviously with Harris on there, it's just
And again, I think the Dems just stumbled into it because of a series of unfortunate events in their thinking.
I don't know if it was such a like just a series of unfortunate events that just so happened. I think it was more, pushed in that direction.
Yeah,
Like certain events were pushed in certain directions.
But the big picture is we both agree that Harris was the chosen one until
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure,
until
for
she
sure.
couldn't handle debates at all.
Right.
Couldn't defend her record at all. Yeah.
And she can't handle a debate now either.
She can't now. She's protected now, right?
Yeah. All right. So on the question of healthcare, the
Right.
only thing that I wanted to say about this was that I found it super ironic how the whole argument, or the main argument against Amy Coney Barrett, was that she was going to overturn
Right.
Obamacare. Okay.
Right.
And she was unanimously confirmed.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I know it. I will say I do want to say in healthcare though that what the heck is wrong with the Republicans? They can't even come up with, even if it's like bullshit, they can't say that they have a healthcare plan. They can't come up with anything because they're stuck, right? They can't, Obamacare probably is maybe about the best you could do, minus, you including insurance, basically have an insurance-based healthcare system, minus some more drug price control. And somehow getting rid of copays and deductibles for those that are poorest or something, so that they can actually have their kids go to doctors. But since Trump can't, embrace socialism in something like Medicare for all, he's like stuck, right? So he's stuck with
Even
saying
though Obamacare was actually
Romney care.
Romney
It's
care,
Romney care,
who
of
Mitt
course it is,
Romney
right?
is a Republican,
Yeah,
so
yeah. And I mean, you should be able to improve on incrementally on Obamacare, but you know, it's really, I would love to see the Republicans just say, you know what? It is conservative to go for Medicare for all. It's what all these other countries that we have engagements with do. They do some form of Medicare for all or single payer, and you can have single payer plus with insurance options if you want extended care. To me, that should be considered to be a conservative platform at this point. All the people need health care, and you're going to deliver it in the most efficient way because you're going to take out all these layers of insurance and all these adjusters and all these, all this stuff that prevents it from being efficient. And I would think true conservatism would see that as being the way we should go. And they're stuck in a real hard place
you
that
know
they
what it
can't
is?
get
It's
there.
because well, the some would blame it on the libertarian
Yeah.
portion. That there's too many libertarians that are in the Republican Party, and that's why.
And it's also it's a long where they've been demonizing it as being something by the evil Bernie socialists for so long. It's a big U-turn.
Just like Trump repealing the Obama mandate or whatever, it's because
Yeah.
of the fact that it's just Obamacare. That's it. It's just because Obama did it.
Well, I think with a lot of Trump, it just came out of how Obama humiliated him in a couple. Their whole thing over the the birther stuff, and then Obama humiliated him at the journalists, whatever the journalists convention or whatever it is. What is that? Where they have all the journalists come and they give speeches in front of what I'm talking about.
The press, the press dinner. Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
the media did whatever that thing is, right?
Uh-huh.
Where he kind of singled out Trump and kind of humiliated
Yeah,
him a
yeah,
little
yeah,
bit. And
yeah,
also,
yeah.
so I think a lot of it is just really personal. And for Trump, yeah, it's a lot of like hating Obamacare is just a personality thing, which just shows how ugly our politics are and what children we have involved.
Right. All right, and then I will give Biden one, right? So
Yep.
one thing that I will give him is that he did hit Trump on the fact that Trump wasn't able to rein in the Senate to come up with a stimulus, like to actually pass a stimulus bill.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. So that
Because
was
because the Democrats did pass a bill in the House, right? And
right.
so that can't be held against the Democrats. It's the Republicans in the Senate that have been holding up this process, and that's why there hasn't been a stimulus bill, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's true. I also thought Trump really stumbled on, at some point, Biden tried to humanize that there are these families. I think, or maybe it was the moderator brought up this thing of these families that are right next to coal facilities and they're suffering ill health effects and all that. And Trump just went right into blowing by the human element, went right into, well, gee, gas is only $2 a gallon, and
Yeah.
people want jobs, and it was really looked bad to me. It
Yeah.
really looked bad.
Mhm.
The whole idea of Biden trying to look like the human um, person here, the person that cares about people's welfare and so forth.
Mhm.
Um, that only helped that,
Right.
because
Right.
Biden was able to answer something that right off the bat was like, well, I would care about those people and whatever,
Right.
so that was really bad, and it plays into exactly what everyone's fear about Trump is, that he's a cold, calculating businessman, and that's about it,
Mhm.
and possibly racist, because there was, I think we were talking about um, minorities that are, the only housing they can get was under the, in the chemtrail path of this factory or whatever,
Mhm.
oil facility. Yeah. So I mean, I think most people came out thinking that this probably didn't affect most people. Maybe some independents, if anyone's still sitting on the fence, probably not a lot of those. It could have pushed to Trump a little bit. That was my feeling. Is that
Oh,
for the
but
most
I
part?
mean, that's how all the debates are, right? They
Yeah, yeah,
none of
yeah,
them
yeah,
really are gonna sway you either way, even though that's what they're supposed to do, is that they're supposed to inform you so that you're
yeah.
making a more informed decision.
Yep. But I think at that point, anyone that's paying attention to politics already has this internal voice of what the argument against the person, so Trump makes one argument, um, about, it was good to negotiate with Kim Jong Un, and Dems internal voices is saying, like, this guy's they're really bad. Kim Jong Un's really bad. He tortures his people. This is not good to talk to him, or something like that.
Mhm.
So I think that mitigates a lot of the possibility of minds being changed.
Yep, yep. And then, like, two things that Trump really he missed out on
Mhm.
was he could have hit um Biden hard on the immigration, because it was really, that was supposed to be a hit against Trump, and I think it did kind of hurt Trump, because it presented the whole image of Trump, put kids in cages, but he really could have hit Biden by saying, well, why did these kids come here to begin with? Because of the Obama Biden policies. That is
Oh,
why they're
okay.
here in the
Yeah.
first place. That is what he should have come and hit him with. But
Right.
he didn't. So
Well,
that was a really big missed opportunity, I think.
so I mean, you're aware of all these background politics and all these really horrific decisions, that the United States has made in South America, and so that would have played. But I think hammering Biden on who built the cages, I think that did carry weight. I
Yeah.
think that was to the level of thinking where most people are at
Yeah.
watching the debate.
Hmm.
Maybe they would actually go look up and say, "Oh, that's right. These pictures were actually from 2014."
Hmm. Hmm.
And the other thing I'd forgot about this is that I thought was quite effective, for Trump, was saying, like, Joe, you've got all these plans. You keep saying what we're going to do is, you were in power for 8 years of the Obama administration. 2 years had complete control. You've been in power for 47 years. I mean, why are we now talking about making these changes? I
Yeah.
mean, are you
I think
just
he
like
did drive
so
that
in?
home. He
No, he
did use
did. He
that. Yeah.
did. That was his other huge point, and he
Yeah.
brought it up a couple times, that why are we now talking about doing things that are often directly in opposition to what his actual record is.
Right. Right.
Now he talks about justice for reform and all this kind of stuff. Well, we're talking about reforming the justice that he created, in the criminal laws that have been passed, and the
Hmm.
justice. So. I thought that was really effective to people that were open to hearing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether or not you believe that, I mean, Trump did pass some justice reform. He made good points about working across the aisle to get that done. Um, I just think a lot of ears are closed to that, though. They just think like,
Well,
no,
I think that that is where Trump, it was another missed opportunity. Well,
yeah,
first of all, I want to say that I I think the moderator, again, it was a really shitty moderator because a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, they should have pushed back, and then we
right.
could have gotten some clear answers on these things, right?
Yeah,
But
she
the
should
fact
have
that
definitely, the follow ups were definitely called for that
Right,
didn't
right, right.
happen.
But the
Yeah,
fact that the way that she presented the question about the 1994 crime bill,
yeah,
the way that she said that he was a supporter of the bill, no, he
right,
authored
right,
the bill.
right. That's right.
He authored it.
Yeah,
Don't don't get it twisted.
yeah, I
Okay,
know it.
he's
I
not
know.
a supporter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again,
There is a difference.
she was obviously like in the can for Biden. There were several points where she tried to switch topics real fast, or
Right,
that's that game that they play. And
right,
the fact that it's so obvious
right,
that they're on one side is.
right.
And I thought I actually noticed a couple times that Biden's mic wasn't muted when he was kind of like making comments while Trump was talking.
Hmm, hmm.
Um, but
Maybe they
yeah.
thought that it was only Trump that was going to do it.
Yeah, oh, it could be. It could be. And again, I think it's so funny because I think it like benefited Trump
But
tremendously.
so, but again, with that question or like the racial question, right?
Right.
Trump really missed the opportunity because he could have called out Biden by saying Biden was the one who on film was caught saying that he didn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle.
Right.
He said that. He
He could
said
have
that. Those
he
were
could have
his
thrown
words, right?
well, I mean, there's a number of things he could have thrown back. There's a whole list of he could have thrown back the you know, you ain't white thing and all that. There's a million things he said that was,
You ain't black. You
you
ain't
ain't
black if you don't
black.
know if you're gonna vote
Uh
for me, if you're gonna vote for
yeah,
yeah.
and he had said like, Obama was the first clean, well-spoken, right? I mean, and I'm telling you, I went looking. Like, there's a huge list of this stuff.
Oh,
It's
geez. But
across
yeah,
his
you see, so
entire.
that, and then
Yeah,
like with the criminal justice,
yeah,
he should have brought up the fact that there's all these protests or whatever, and you have the person who authored the 1994 crime bill, and then you have Kamala. You have
right.
someone who he should have brought up Kamala, and especially if he's
Yeah,
saying that really Kamala is going to be the one who's in charge because he's the one who has actually said that. Well,
yeah.
then you should have brought up Kamala's, history and record.
And I have to say that the parallels between this and 2016, we basically had Hillary was exactly the wrong candidate given the change Washington push at that point, and given the social justice push now, Kamala and Biden are exactly the wrong people. And then you had at the end of the 2016 campaign, you had a close friend of the campaign, Anthony Weiner, has a laptop that needs to
Hmm.
be scrutinized by the FBI because of his sexting with young women
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And now you've got Hunter Biden's laptop that needs to be scrutinized because of young women at sexting kind of stuff,
Hmm.
and having possible
Well, that's
child.
not the part that needs to be
No, but
scrutinized.
but that's the reason the FBI, I think, is
Mm.
interested, and child porn,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
and therefore it has to be scrutinized, and it's got this trove of stuff that goes against the candidate. It You couldn't write this. You couldn't write a sci-fi a political fiction and have anyone believe it. It's crazy.
Right. I know, I know. So yeah, so at the end of it, I definitely
Yeah,
think that Trump won. The
yeah,
that was pretty obvious. I think that Biden he had a very poor performance. I mean, obviously he was there, he was lucid, he was, and so the whole like
yeah.
Sleepy Joe thing that definitely didn't come through, but he did show that he has nothing to offer. All he did was just attack Trump by, just throwing shit back at him instead of actually answering, and giving people answers for things that maybe they wanted to hear. But maybe
Yeah.
people just don't want to hear answers and they just wanted to see a mudslinging, contest. I don't
Right.
know.
I think that he was, didn't look good, though didn't look quite as cadaver-like as in the first debate. A format where he's allowed to speak continuously for a couple of minutes. He gets himself in a little trouble here and there. And I thought he was on the run for the most part. But a lot of people, they saw not Trump, you know.
Right, exactly.
This guy's
Exactly.
not Trump. And
That's
they
what I'm
don't
saying.
necessarily even care if this guy's not going to really be president. He's going to be a puppet or figurehead for Hillary or Kamala or whatever. I
Hmm.
think a lot of people don't care. They're just like, it has to not be Trump.
Right,
And it
right,
just doesn't matter.
right.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at too, is basically I thought Trump somewhat won and he might push a few independents. But generally people are already, they're either like locked in on Trump or locked in on Biden already. I think probably
Yeah.
vast majority. Yeah.
But moving on,
All right.
right? If you are interested in more than one candidate, right?
Mhm.
If you actually want to get out of the left-right paradigm, I we thought we would go over some of the other candidates, right?
Sure.
So here I pulled up Ballotpedia, and it shows the presidential candidates for 2020, right? So here it has the notable candidates, or at least the ones that have that are on, I guess, all 50 states ballots at least. Um, and so it's obviously Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Howie Hawkins, and
So,
Joe Jorgensen. So
so
Howie
we should.
Hawkins is for the Green Party, Joe
Yeah, I'm afraid
Jorgensen for the
I have to
Libertarian
throw
Party.
in here. I have to throw in here again. Democrats, using legal maneuvers to get the Greens off of the ballot in a few battleground states is horrifying when they talk about giving people choice and protecting the vote and so forth.
Yeah,
That's just another reason I think Dems got to go.
and how they empower voters, right?
Right, how they are all about the sanctity of the vote and protecting the
Yeah,
vote.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But there are also other people that are running, and so it says here the general election candidates on 5 or more ballots. So you have Don Blankenship, Brian T. Carroll, Roque de la Fuente, or Roque de la Fuente, Allison Kennedy, Gloria La Riva, which from what I understand, I'm pretty sure everybody on the convo couch, and I think Nico House is also voting for Gloria La Riva.
Huh.
Brock Pierce and Kanye West. So you don't
Huh.
have to just vote for Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Don't let anyone tell you that those are your only two options. But so we're not going to obviously go into all of these people, but I thought that we could just look into at least Howie Hawkins and Joe Jorgensen. So I pulled up here Howie Hawkinson's page. And so here we have the two candidates, or the ticket. And so Howie Hawkins is obviously he's running for president. His vice president would be Angela Walker. Um, the I personally I used to be a Green. I'm independent now, and I'm probably gonna vote for Howie Hawkins. Just
Hmm.
because I am down with the Green Party platform, and that's really what is important to me. And I have the strategy that I want to build up the Green Party so that they can at least get 5%. I don't know if
Now,
that's actually going to happen, but I would like to contribute to
yeah.
that.
So I was just going to ask, like, what is the likelihood now of so we're in Massachusetts of libertarians or Greens getting 5% in Massachusetts?
I think libertarians, I think, actually maybe have a pretty good chance.
Yeah. So,
I
so
don't
that
know
I
about Greens though.
Yeah, so that was the only thing I would say that like so I would be like with you on that idea about the Greens generally would line up more with my politics, but I think that people should factor in if either opposing party can get 5% to get the federal matching funds.
Yeah.
That would just help a lot. Besides, absolutely vote yes on question 2 for ranked choice voting, which will help out third parties a lot.
Right, which we are going to go over in a little bit.
Yep.
Okay. So just like looking at their platform, you know, they have something here for the COVID emergency response measures, eco-socialist Green New Deal, which to remind people, the Green New Deal was actually from the Green Party. It was actually their, you know,
Right.
deal that they had actually come up with. It was supposed to be like, you know, like a New Deal, but you know, more focused on the environment and you know, bringing across essentially what the changes that are drastically needed right now, right? And it's not so much based on the neoliberal type of Green New Deal that was presented by the Democrats. And then there's also peace policies, which obviously, again, that's a big deal for me. The fact that that is not something that they put at the bottom of the list, it's something that they put at the top of the list, which tells me that this is a priority for them. So economic bill of rights, socialist economy, which, I mean, I don't know how far that will go, but you know, political democracy, social justice, criminal and civil justice, media democracy, and tax justice. So it looks like at least they, you know, and they, they've looked into these things. These are things that they're not just issues on the back burner; they're on the forefront, you know, for his platform, which I think that that's important.
But I will say that I'm looking at polling data for Massachusetts, where basically looking at let's see, oh, I'm sorry, this is national, it's not Massachusetts. You're basically looking like 2.3% average for Jorgensen and like 0.8 for Hawkins. I'll see if I can find Massachusetts specifically.
I know. See, that's what I said. That I think that I thought that we should have the more strategic way to go about it would be for, you know, everyone that was not willing to vote for Biden to come together, you know, and vote on the left, and whoever didn't want to vote for Trump to vote for the Libertarian, you know, that just so that again you can get that federal funding, you know, and so that, you know, in 2024 you can actually have hopefully you know, more people, more parties actually on the debate stage, so that you can actually make an informed decision as to who you want leading this country. But you know, unfortunately, that's not what's presented to us. Right. All right. And then Jo Jorgensen, she's running for president under the Libertarian ticket. And so here's a little bit of information on her. And then this is her running mate, Jeremy Spike Cohen. Again, I don't really know all that much about them.
I mean, they do have also essentially anti-war from the I think mostly from the point of view of we shouldn't be getting involved in other countries, and we should use the money here at home. So that would be the reason I would support them, is basically, hey, and you know, number one concern for me is to stop, you know, blowing up children in other countries. Yeah. So if I were to support them, it would be over that. I do like your idea, Daisy, basically of like, hey, if you're on the left and you're thinking you're gonna vote third party, you're not happy with Biden, you know, go with Hawkins. If you're more a Trump or Republican person that's not happy with him, going with Jorgensen might make a lot of sense.
Right. I just think that we need to be more strategic about these things, because it is very much like a war that's going on. And so the best thing for us to do is to actually make, you know, moves that are gonna benefit us in the long run, you know, not just being reactionary and thinking short term.
Right, but as always, the big problem with that is that there is no one, you know, body or institution that can bring all, you know, third party leaning people together to come up with that strategy, right? And there would be all sorts of disinformation if there was, sown by the Republicans and Democrats trying to screw up the messaging around that anyway.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's a big machine that we're going up against, and that's why we all need to come together. Because if
Oh
we're
yeah.
fractured, which that's obviously how it's designed, is to keep us fractured. Because if we're fractured, then and we're too busy fighting amongst ourselves, then we can't come together to fight who we really need to fight. Right.
Right, right. So, I mean, I have hope at this point that if people do, I mean, the thing I'm almost more excited than anything about Massachusetts is the ranked choice voting, and if that passes, I mean, just the idea if it keeps trickling in state by state, you know, for state level elections, that people finally just push and say, well, we really need this for national elections as well, right? But unfortunately, you know, that time horizon is certainly out like a decade or something anyway before that would work its way through, that we could even hope for national ranked choice. But maybe in my lifetime, I don't know.
Mm, who knows? Who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
but the thing is that we can't just talk about these things. We actually have to put, our feet to the ground and actually do some work for this, right? It's not going to just happen on its own.
Right.
So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was the Senate election, right? So we do have here in Massachusetts the Senate election, and it's supposed to be now after the primaries. It would be Ed Markey, who is the incumbent. He's running under the Democrat ticket, and then there's Kevin O'Connor, who is running under the Republican party. Um, I'm not going to get into Ed Markey or Kevin O'Connor because, living in the state that we're living in, most likely it's going to be Ed Markey winning, unfortunately,
Well,
because that's
so I
just how
don't,
party politics work here.
yeah, I don't love Markey, but you know, he's saying the right stuff now about climate change and things like that, where, I mean, I'm just like, I'm not horrified by him winning. No, he's a
I
dem
think the
machine.
whole thing with climate change was something that it's just because he signed on to this Green New Deal, and the only reason he did that was because he saw who it was attached to. He saw that Alexandria Ocasio Cortez was
Right.
attached to this thing, and he has the Sunrise Movement backing him and all this, and he needed the clout, and then it ended up it gives him this I guess this progressive clout where now you can say, oh, he's an environmentalist. He's working, for all these environmental issues. But in actuality, what is he actually doing?
Well, I agree with the cynicism around the reason he is pushing climate change and Green New Deal, but just the fact that a senator is pushing and seems committed to pushing it, it's something positive. It's not great. I think he's probably in the wrong place on a lot of other things. Um, but even if he arrives there for the wrong reasons, um, the messaging going forward from his office of we need action on climate change, to me, is a good thing.
I mean, for you, it's because the ends justify the means, and I just.
Well, they don't. I
But
think
you're
he's,
saying that it does, though. That's what you're saying by saying that at least if he's saying these things, well, then even if it comes from somebody who doesn't mean it or who takes money from fossil fuels and all this, like who cares?
well, no, it's not that at all. It's that we have, if you're talking about having this specific choice,
Mm.
and it's going to be somebody that's denying climate change, or somebody that's now, for, again, I agree, for all the wrong reasons, and I agree he's taken fossil fuel money for decades and so forth, and it's it's an impossible, again, it's another impossible choice
Mhm.
where you're going to have reservations no matter what you do. Um, and that's where I would be, is I would vote for him just because at least messaging will go forward that's positive. And it's irrelevant. He's going to win anyway, right? I mean, he's
Right,
absolutely,
but that's what I'm saying. It's like
yeah,
in this case, I really do feel like, unfortunate, and it's just because that's what history has shown us in this
yeah,
state, that this is how it works. But if you want to be different, if you
yeah,
want to do something different, which
yeah.
I think this is where I'm leaning, is I'm going to be a little different, is that Dr. Shiva is also running for a U.S. Senate, and he ran under the Republican ticket initially, but he lost that, and now he is actually fighting this. If I'm not mistaken, he is taking this to court, um, uh, because he is saying that there was election fraud that was committed by the state of Massachusetts. And so he's doing a write-in campaign, right?
Mhm.
And so
I saw
here,
one of his commercials today.
oh yeah,
On this, basically saying, do this. It's all about election integrity, and it's very good, very well done. Yeah, and
yeah, yeah.
basically showed this page saying this is how you
Yes.
do it. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, so all you would have to do is just in the write-in space only, you would put Dr. Shiva. And just some of the, I hate this. So just some of the things on his platform, Citizen Science Act. So it's proposed by Dr. Shiva to restore truth in science, Digital Rights Act. So I want people to remember that what they put on their platform is showing you what is a priority for these candidates. And that is what we can hold them to account if they do, get into these positions of power, that we can say, this is what you ran on, but this is not what you're doing, and this is what, unfortunately, people like Ed Markey, right, who can put all this flowery information on their websites, but or on their platforms, and they can tell you whatever they want, but then when they're in office, they're not doing these things, and because people aren't holding them to account, then they just continue to just tell you what you want to hear, right? Um, so, but if that's what the case is here, that he's telling me what I want to hear with this kind of stuff, right? So the Digital Rights Act proposed by, oh, okay, it says it's coming soon. The Health Rights Act is based on a modern scientific understanding of the immune system. So we do have to understand that he is a doctor, and he's the inventor of the email. He's got like four doctoral degrees from MIT. I mean, he's quite the accomplished man. So alternative medicine, environment, free speech, homeschooling, healthcare, racism, Second Amendment, vaccines, school choice, police and people, boosting immunity, pro-life to the power of two. So, I mean, to me, he seems like someone who, and he talks a lot about how he is working for the people. He is someone, he's just a regular person, just like me and you. So very much going on, I guess, with a populist message, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people should completely consider voting for him. The thing is that you don't have to. There's actually no chance of anyone like blaming you for keeping Ed Markey from winning. But to get a sizable amount of folks voting for Dr. Shiva would can send a great message that
Right.
this is the platform we want, and there's also some election integrity issues coming up here. Um, that it could be a really good way to use your vote.
Right. And you don't have to, I mean, what I think people really need to understand is that your vote is just that. It's your vote. You're allowed to vote however you want. If you want to if you even want to write in like purple dinosaur. Like, it doesn't matter. You're
Yeah,
allowed to do
yeah,
whatever you want, and no one
yeah,
is allowed to voter shame you into thinking that you need to vote one way or another. And if we all keep thinking that, oh, well, this person has no chance of winning, so why am I going to vote for them? Well, then that's why no one else is ever going to have a chance to do anything, right? And I guess this kind of leads into the next thing, which would be the measures, right? The ballot questions.
yep.
For this one, I was actually able to find this because I actually received this in the mail, but then
Right.
I was reading through this, but I was able to find this online, which I was really happy about because
Hmm.
then obviously it's easier to share.
Mm.
um, and so it goes over the question. So it goes over question one and question two. Were you able to read this before you?
I had read it before I voted. You know, I still don't know what to tell folks on question one. There's so many people lined up on either side. Um, you know, if you believe one side, it's basically that you have to be afraid of the the electronics that the auto manufacturers put into your car. You can't trust that, and so therefore you have to make sure you don't let local mechanics have access to that. It just is a weird argument to me. So um, I voted yes on one to say let you know right to repair kind of position. But I don't know if there is something to fear about you know this Wi-Fi access to your you know your car information or what people could possibly glean from that.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely going to put the link to this in the show description, but and I'm obviously I'm not going to read through all of this, but I did want to just point out. So for question one, and again, this is ballot initiatives on the Massachusetts ballot. So obviously, if you're not in Massachusetts, this is not going to be on your ballot. Um, but this question one is a law proposed about motor vehicle mechanical data. And essentially, if a yes vote would provide motor vehicle owners and independent repair facilities with expanded access to wirelessly transmitted mechanical data related to their vehicle's maintenance and repair. All right. So a no vote would make no change in the law governing access to vehicles' wirelessly transmitted mechanical data. And then, so then the arguments, which I thought this was so cool that they put this together. This is like really good. I felt like this deserves a little pat on the back, right? So
Mm.
it says in favor, a yes vote for right to repair, which let's start with that. So right to repair, that already makes me think like a right to work state, and that already makes me think no.
Hmm. Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
but so a yes vote for right to repair will guarantee that as technology advances, drivers can continue to get their cars repaired where they want. We passed the first right to repair law in 2012, but as new cars become more computerized, auto manufacturers are using a loophole to restrict access to data needed to diagnose problems, make repairs, and perform maintenance. This means car owners are steered toward more expensive dealer repair options. Vote yes to protect independent repair shops and preserve your ability to shop around. Voting yes provides access only to mechanical and repair information, not personal information. A yes vote ensures that you will have the choice to see how they've worded all of this, right? So it's
Hmm.
all for your benefit, which that is very iffy to me when it's worded this way, whenever it comes to any sort of legislation. A yes vote ensures that you will have the choice to provide access to the repair information necessary to fix your car to your local independent repair shop, even as cars become more computerized. It's your car, you paid for it, you should get it fixed where you want. Now, against is vote no on question one to protect your privacy, your safety, and your family. Question one has nothing to do with fixing cars. Question one is a data grab by third parties who want to gather your personal vehicle information and access it remotely, including location data in real time. Domestic violence advocates warn how dangerous this information could be. Jane Doe, the Massachusetts Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence, wrote, access to vehicle data, particularly call logs and GPS location, enables persons who penetrate abuse to possess the tools necessary to track and monitor their victim. A similar proposal failed in California after the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault warned from this information, a third party, such as a sexual predator, could stalk and or harm victims. Privacy advocates, cybersecurity experts, and domestic violence advocacy groups urge you to vote no on question 1.
So that's so strange to me, because that to me is basically, I mean, it's obvious that large auto manufacturers want to keep all the repair work to themselves, and they always charge way more because they always want to replace parts when others will do something else and all that kind of stuff. So they're essentially using a scare tactic where they're admitting that they've put this major security issue in your car, and now they're leveraging their security issue, which they're admitting could put people in danger. I mean, that's their argument. It's a circular, strange argument, and I just don't buy it. Yeah.
So you think it's more, the argument against it is more a fear-mongering argument?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I definitely think it is, obviously it is based more on fear-mongering.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Because again, the language that is used in favor,
Yeah.
that to me it's exactly like the right to work kind of language, you know? And
Well, so you don't like
I'm not for right to work. Massachusetts is a right to work state, which
yeah, but you don't like the way it was essentially worded, but what it actually means is allowing access to computerized information on the car. If the argument against it is that this is dangerous for people to have it, then is it less dangerous so for somehow it's less dangerous for shop A, that's an official Toyota shop, it's less dangerous for them to have it than your trusted mechanic that you want, that would do the work for half the price? I just don't understand that argument. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear
and
you.
that's why that's why my wife and I and all my friends, we've gone back and forth on this.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know, could there be a situation where, okay, well, I again, even like, why am I going to trust, if this is a problem for a domestic violence victim, why is it not a problem for when Toyota accesses that information versus
Yeah, like you can still have an employee at Toyota that.
Yeah. What's the difference? I don't understand that. They have the codes. They can access it. We're just talking about having this other person have a code.
I mean, I think
you
if
have
that's
more
the
choice.
only aspect that's changing, then I guess yes.
Yeah, you have more choice of who you bring it to. What if you really trust this independent guy and the Toyota?
But you have to remember that that's also how it's always sold to you, that it's to your benefit, that it's to give you more options, right? But then,
as I understand what the issue is about providing access to this data that's already collected because of what the auto manufacturers have put in your car, then we know that Toyota, Honda, Ford already have access to this information. If it's dangerous, they're basically admitting they've put us in danger, which is bizarre.
I mean, I did read, they do have the text here, and it's not very long. I did read it, and it does seem as though what the situation is that it's they won't have to, I guess essentially if you take it to the dealership, they have certain permissions that they're allowed to look into certain information, but then if you just let anybody be able to access this information, then I guess it's just more access to this, and then you can
Well,
also,
you
but it's
say
also
more.
that you
No,
can
but
like
yeah.
change, you can control information. Like I said, I read the text, and it's like you can make remote changes to your car. So it's just, again, it's also about allowing more access. That, I guess, if it's more controlled who has access to this information or permissions, you know what I'm saying, versus not having that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that, the people are going to be accessing the data at Toyota are not going to have gone through any FBI scrutiny. You know, um, it basically they've put this data collection in your vehicle, and that's the source of the problem. Um, and I think I would favor allowing people to choose who they trust to access that information by allowing them to go to the mechanic they trust more. Makes more sense rather
And it
than
does say that they have to ask you for permission, and but it's also one of those things where it's like they have to present to you, that you have to sign off that you received, like, I guess, the terms of agreement or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Which half the
right,
time, no one even reads any of these things.
right.
So
No, no one does. No,
I don't.
no.
It's like I said, like, I'm kind of iffy on it, just because I don't know where I stand on this. I'm very much like, trying to keep people's data as concealed as possible. Um, but
Yeah, it's a really hard one. I can't tell people how to vote on that. I mean,
right,
try and work through it on your own. Um, it's a difficult one.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But not a difficult one is
Not a
question
difficult one.
2, which is
Absolutely.
ranked choice voting.
Absolutely.
All right. So a yes vote would create a system of ranked choice voting in which voters would have the option to rank candidates in order of preference, and voters would be counted in rounds, eliminating candidates with the lowest votes until one candidate has received a majority. A no vote would make no change in the laws governing voting and how votes are counted. So, in favor, a yes vote adopts ranked choice voting, a common sense reform that puts more power in the hands of voters. Choice voting addresses three problems. Big money and corrupt special interests have too much control over our democracy. Politicians can win with less than a majority, and independents are shut out. Politics are tearing us apart, preventing solutions to major challenges. It works by giving voters the option to rank candidates in order of preference. You can vote for just one candidate like you always have, okay? Because that's something that's used, like, oh, that you have to vote for. No, you can only vote for just one if you want. Or you can rank your first, second, and third choice. If your favorite candidate doesn't win, your vote is instantly counted for your second choice, so candidates must compete for every vote. Ranked choice voting ensures the winner has majority support and reflects the true will of the people. A yes vote gives voters more choice and will help make our democracy stronger. I mean, how can you argue anything against this? I was
Oh,
really thinking,
yeah,
like, when I saw this against thing, I was like, what did they even come up with to to
yeah,
go against that?
yeah. It's
But
fantastic. I put in the chat for you to include on the with the with our YouTube
okay,
a link to like a brief cartoonish walkthrough of ranked choice voting.
yeah,
I actually did it for the Unity nomination, right, for Tulsi. Um, and it's just really wonderful. It's wonderfully freeing just to be able to say, this is my number one choice for a candidate. This is my number two. This is my number three. It completely eliminates the Jill Stein or Ralph Nader issue with people.
spoiler, being a spoiler.
Yeah, the spoiler issue. It completely eliminates the fact of anyone being able to call you a spoiler for voting for who you want to vote for, who most closely aligns with your beliefs. Because that person, if they're truly a spoiler and they get like only 10%, they're your second ranked votes will go to the one of the other candidates.
Right.
So it completely takes care of that. The other thing is I really like the idea of on ranked choice voting, you should be able to actually find out what is the actual support for Howie Hawkins or Joe Jorgensen or Jill Stein,
Right.
because people aren't, they're not forced to vote for somebody else. In the first round, you'll actually see that, oh, Jill Stein actually got 15% of the vote if people actually, of people that what how they actually feel about it. And that should snowball to real support for third parties that
Right.
should give us the choices that we really want.
Right. So
Yeah,
anyone that really wants to bring about any sort of real change to our political system should be in favor of ranked choice voting. At the very
absolutely.
minimum, you should be in favor of this. There's again, I couldn't believe that there was actually something against this, but
Yeah, and there's
the
so
argument.
for a lot of folks, there's not a lot of joy in going casting a ballot this time, but you can feel really good about going in Massachusetts and voting for yes on two.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
All right. So then the argument against it says two Democratic governors. See, again, so there's really no argument, right?
Yeah, they're
So this,
saying that people are so dumb they'll get confused by it, and that's ridiculous.
yeah,
Like I say,
yeah,
a 2-minute cartoon video can explain it, and you'll understand it completely.
right. So it
Yeah,
says two Democratic governors rejected ranked choice voting because it was confusing and denied voters informed choice, which, again,
it's
it's up
crazy.
and down.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh,
Democratic Governor Jerry Brown witnessed a mayoral election in Oakland where the winner won with voters' seventh and eighth place rankings. Governor Brown said ranked choice voting is overly complicated and confusing. I believe it deprives voters of genuinely informed choice. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, and they keep putting you know what I'm saying? To
right.
like really hone in, like, oh,
Yeah.
these are the good people, the Democrats. The
These days,
Democratic,
Californians are some of the worst examples of Democrats too. I mean, Convo Couch people, all these people like living out in California will tell you
yep,
they're terrible.
yep. So, Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom said ranked choice voting has often led to voter confusion, and the promise that ranked choice voting leads to greater democracy is not necessarily fulfilled. That's not that. There is no argument there. Seriously,
Mm,
how did they present an argument there? It says ranked choice voting ballots force voters to guess the candidates who will remain standing in multiple voting rounds and cast their votes in the dark. That's not true. I just read to you here. It says you can vote for just one candidate like you
right,
always have,
right.
right? If they guess wrong and vote for eliminated candidates, their ballots are not counted in the final vote. Winners win a false majority of remaining ballots, not a true majority of all the voters voting in the election.
Yeah, so it just doesn't make any sense. I've tried to understand people that are against it. I've tried to understand their these I first of all, the idea that it's overly complicated, that's just ridiculous, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the idea that somehow you'll end up with, under any scenario, if you actually look at, okay, this is what would have happened if we didn't have ranked choice voting, and this is what would happen if you had ranked choice voting. To me, the ranked choice voting is superior. If you work through different, possibilities, you've always, with the first thing, you've always got situations where people are like, well, I really like what this guy stands for or this woman stands for, but I'm not sure. The polls say they're not going to win and they don't have a chance. So I'm going to have to vote for this other person I don't really like as much out of fear. And so you're already starting from a horrible place. Where ranked
Mm-hmm.
choice voting, if you work through the scenarios, to me, they just always make sense. Even that one example in the ballot literature where they're talking about, obviously it was a case where there are so many candidates and the percentages that that they were holding in of supporters were so small, each one
Mm-hmm.
of them, you still would end up with a better situation going through the process of ranked choice voting, because somebody would have finally it would fall somewhere on your ranking rather than everyone just having to vote out of fear for this person or that person, you know. And you're very likely in that situation would have still ended up with somebody not making 50% and, you know, getting elected with less than 50%, which I don't think makes anybody happy. So yeah, a solid yes
Yeah.
from us.
Peanuts from the plebs
The only thing
approved.
really that lately to be excited about and happy with, you know.
I know, seriously.
Yeah.
And look, I think with this we can actually end on a good note.
Yes. Fantastic. Get out there, vote for ranked choice voting, be excited about it. And on election day, you know, that's something we'll get an answer to that same day, I assume.
Oh,
Uh,
here's hoping.
and that will be exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, everybody, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Goodbye.